Let's talk about raising up a Timothy. I want to talk to you about that because it's really critical to any organization that there's a second in command. The Timothy is a second in command. I come from Christian International, and Bishop Hammond taught us to be reproducers of reproducers who reproducers. That's like a little tongue tie. Reproducers of reproducers who reproduce reproducers. And so we always want to have multiplication in mind. So what is a Timothy? A Timothy is a second in command. A Timothy is someone you trust to be your number two. Everybody needs a number two. You're not supposed to do everything yourself. You've got to leverage things out. You've got to delegate. As your prayer hubs grow, you've got to find a number two, a number three, or a couple of number twos. And a lot of people don't want to be number twos, but before you can ever be number one, you got to be a number two, right? And there's nothing wrong with being number two. But look, let me read you the scripture here, Philippians 2, 19 and 20. But I hope and trust in the Lord Jesus soon to send Timothy to you, so that I may be encouraged and cheered by learning news of you. Listen, for I have no one like him, no one of so kindred a spirit, who will be so genuinely interested in your welfare and devoted to your interests. That's a number two. Paul had high words of praise. He said, I've got nobody else like him. He's a kindred spirit. He's really genuinely interested in your welfare, and he's devoted to your interests. Why? Because I've raised him up to be that way. So why raise up a Timothy? Well, I told you everybody needs a number two. You can't do all this by yourself, but listen, it's biblical. It is biblical to raise up Timothys, the number two, the shining stars of the future, the ones who are rising up. 2 Timothy 2:2. 2 Timothy 2:2. You have heard me teach things that have been confirmed by many reliable witnesses. This is Paul talking to Timothy. You've heard me teach things, son. They've been confirmed by many reliable witnesses. I'm teaching the truth. And Paul said, now teach these truths to other trustworthy people who will be able to pass them on to others. So we want to spend most of our time with the builders. We want, as prayer leaders, we want to pour most of ourselves in those who are building. Listen, let me not get ahead of myself. I'll read this out of the Passion Translation. And all that you have learned from me, confirmed by the integrity of my life, pass on to faithful leaders who are competent to teach the congregations the same revelation. In other words, you're trying to duplicate yourself. You're trying to replicate yourself. You're trying to multiply. The Amplified Version says, and the instructions which you have heard from me, along with many witnesses, transmit and entrust as a deposit to reliable and faithful men who will be competent and qualified to teach others also. So you need a Timothy because it's biblical. You need a Timothy, listen, to back you up if you're sick, if you can't do the prayer meeting that week, if you, God forbid, have a family emergency or a wonderful opportunity where, you've got to stay late for work because of some great presentation. I don't know, but you've got to have a backup. You've got to have a number two. You want a number two. Believe me, there'll come a day, if you don't have one now, something will happen and you'll wish you had one. So we got to start looking for the number twos now, for the Timothys. The third reason is because it'll relieve a burden on you. The Timothy is committed to you, to covering you in prayer, to praying on the prayer broadcast, not leaving you silent like that, to help you maybe administrate, right? Help you post banners. And the fourth reason why you need a Timothy, listen, is to multiply your prayer groups. You should listen very carefully. You should have the goal. Your goal should be to multiply your prayer hub in 6 to 12 months, to break it off. If you have a prayer hub of 30 people, then what's happening is you're not maximizing the gifts of those 30 people. Not everybody's going to get a chance to pray. Not everybody's going to have the opportunity to share. And so if you've got a prayer group of 30 people, you should have a prayer group of about 12. Now, that's once you get to about 12, you should start to think about multiplying. So your goal as a prayer hub leader is to raise up a Timothy and to have them start their own prayer hub, even if it's in the same city. It doesn't matter if it's in the same city. Your city needs more than, how many of you know, your city needs more than one prayer hub? You're not covering the entire city with your one prayer meeting. The whole city needs to be praying. And then you've got two prayer hubs in a city, or three or four, and you've multiplied yourself. Now you've become a reproducer of reproducers who reproduces reproducers. You've done what Paul said to do. You've entrusted, you've deposited in people. Now they're going on further, and we're making maximum impact. So what you're wanting to do is multiply, find a leader, and then they go and register for their own prayer hub. So maybe you have Chicago North, Chicago South, right? And you give them a few of the people in your prayer hub to start it with, and you keep on building and you keep on multiplying. That's how we're going to cover the earth with prayer. That's how we're going to accomplish it, is not just by getting new prayer hub leaders all the time. That's part of it, but it's by multiplying the groups that we have. So let's just end with this. How do you choose a Timothy? How do you choose a number two? Well, pay attention. Who's faithfully attending the meetings? Don't you think I'm paying attention? Who's on these meetings? Don't you think I'm paying attention? Who is answering the emails? I'm paying attention. Who's responding in the Facebook group? I'm paying attention. Why? Because I'm looking for regional leaders, and I'm looking for state leaders. And if you're never on any of the broadcasts, and you're never on any of answering the emails, eventually you'll be removed from the movement, because I don't know what's going on with you, right? I need some level of communication. But I'm looking for the Timothy is the ones that are faithful. You pour into the ones who are builders in anything you do, whether it's a business, or if it's a church, or it's some kind of project, some kind of PTA meeting. You pour yourself into the builders, the ones who are faithful. They're active when they're there. They're praying on the broadcast. They're asking how they can help. And I'm not going to call names, but there's a few of you. They're always asking me if you can help, and that really touches my heart, because we need more help. Before you assign a Timothy is someone that has earned your trust. Well, how do they earn your trust? Give them a special project. Don't say, you're going to be my Timothy, and I'm going to assign you this, this, and this. No, you don't tell them, I've got my eye on you to be my Timothy. You just give them a special project. See if they do it. See if they do it with excellence. See if they did it in a trustworthy manner. And a Timothy should have skills that complement yours. You don't need a mini you, in the sense that you want somebody who has, yes, leadership skills. You can see the potential in them, but you also want somebody that sort of picks up for your slack. What maybe they're better at certain things than you are, ideally. Now that doesn't disqualify someone from being a Timothy just because they're exactly like you. But ideally, you have a team around you that is complementary in skills. And you don't want to move too fast in selecting this person, because you could make a mistake. A lot of times when you give anybody any little bit of authority, it goes to their head, and they get prideful, and they try to take over, or they burn out, or something like that happens. And so don't be so quick to select a Timothy. Watch these people. I've made that mistake a number of times. We first launched the Awakening Prayers movement a couple of years ago. I put in regional leaders, and guess what? None of them are with us today. Why? Because I picked the wrong ones. What did I learn over 3 years ago? What did I learn? I learned that you got to give people assignments first. You've got to make sure they're trustworthy, that they're stable. You got to get to know them better. So we're all about relationships. You got to see their potential, and you can have more than one Timothy. So that's my thoughts on raising up a Timothy.
Hey guys, I have good news about our prayer movement. Awakening Prayer Hubs, well, we've made it a little easier for you to gather. We know that not all of you can gather in a church or even in a home. We've got prison prayer hubs as well, but not all of you are in prison ministry. And so we have now made a way. We call them e-hubs. Those of you who want to have groups on Facebook to gather intercessors and pray, those of you who want to pray on the phone or by some other digital means, maybe it's a WhatsApp group, maybe it's some other digital platform that you all like to use. We still want to facilitate that. We still want to cover that. We still want to help you gather and mobilize and train prayer warriors, intercessors, watchmen, you name it. We're here for you. I want you to go to awakeningprayerhubs.com. propheticbooks.com and find out more about our e-hubs. There's a lot of videos there that you can watch about the prayer movement, questions and answers that many people have about prayer and how to host a prayer meeting. All of that's there for you anytime you want, but we want to connect with you at a deeper level. We want to be able to go with you where neither one of us have gone before in the prayer movement and really begin to break down the barriers of buildings and walls and go digital. Awakening Prayer Hubs, the e-hubs are there for you. Go check it out. Let us know if you have questions. My heartbeat is to facilitate prayer and a prophetic life in the nations of the earth. And let's face it, can't have a prophetic life without prayer. AwakeningPrayerHubs.com. I'll see you there.